Welcome to a new episode of Quarto. Today with the first Italian coach on the books, Daniele Aniello. Daniele, thank you a lot to finally be a guest on my podcast. Before it wasn't possible because it was in Portuguese, but we've talked about this for years. And thank you a lot to be here and to be sharing a lot of your experience with us today.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and that was my fault because I should be able to play Portuguese right now.
Eh, and you also Spanish because you are a higher superior coach in Spain, so you should be able to speak in Spanish. But
Yeah.
before getting there, this thing of being a basketball coach or a professional basketball coach, how does it started? I know that you used to play, and then you managed to become a coach. When you played, you already were thinking about becoming a basketball coach, or something natural that happened. How this basketball coach career started?
I think for each one of us there are so many sliding doors. No? So what I did, I played until 32 years old, not at the highest level, but always, let's say, at a low pro level or semi-pro level. Um, when I was 22, 23, I already started getting my first coaching degrees, and I start coaching kids. So the reality is that until 30 years old, my mind was really settled to coach youth basketball with
Hmm.
just the idea of skills development and having the players grown in your own academy. And this is still a thing a topic that I love so much. But then when I stopped playing, I had the chance to right after my first year of playing, the same club where I was the team captain, they offered me the chance to be the senior team head coach. And
Hmm.
that season, I really understand how much I was in love with tactics, with game preparation, with game pressure. Because a lot of times we as a coach we complain about the pressure during the games, especially in Italy. There is this kind of like similar to calcio sports criticism,
See.
as you probably already know now, and it's bad probably when you leave it,
Hmm.
but at this point of my life, it will be impossible to live without it. It's really strange. It's a feeling that you need that pressure, and then from there I start coaching men's, and every season I felt I need to get a step up, and I was lucky enough to win all leagues where I coach. I start like really from the lowest, and I move up year by year. And I can proudly say that every time, even in different environment, in different clubs, and now I'm in Chieti. It's in B professional league, uh, and we hope to have a good season.
Yes, I think that the thing that you said, and I really felt the difference when I arrived to Italy, is that the sports culture is very, very big. So everyone knows everything about every player, every coach. So it tends to have like an added pressure to being a coach here. I feel that, and for some people, it's better to have that pressure. For other people, it's not that good. How has this lifestyle of yours of being a professional coach from a basketball coach and then youth coach, how this has this impact your life in a personal level? So have you changed a lot in your personality, in your way of thinking, your way of reacting because of the coaching years that you have?
Look, what I always thought, but I was thinking about that even, especially, of course, during my last years of playing. I never liked so much those coaches that they change completely, their personality when they step up on the court.
Hmm.
Uh, Of course, sometimes you have to change that. That's part of our role. But what I'm trying to do is trying always to be myself.
Hmm.
Um, I feel that maybe the biggest part of my job is help my players. Do not treat them as my personal robots, because that was something that I didn't like when I was playing, and even now after many years of coaching men's basketball, um, I really believe in this idea, the
Hmm.
idea of doing something together, and this is how I am as a person. Of course, what really changed a lot is my personal life, my life out of basketball changed a lot, because at the end of the day, playing uh, playing was doing the sport that I love. Coaching is doing the work or the job that I love, but it's
Hmm.
still, I see it more like a job, and I really love it, but I see it more like a job, and the pressure is different. Of course, I have a family now, so some seasons you must live far away from your family. In my case, from my daughter, that's not easy, and especially during the off season, it creates always some critic moments in terms
Hmm.
of what you really want, because
Yes.
I know that a lot of young coaches listen your podcast, and that's my suggestion, to start thinking from a young age what you want, because then the difference between the higher, let's say like this, the higher you go in terms of level, and of course the number of teams, because in A League there are less teams than in C. That
Hmm.
means that in your region, probably there are only two teams. That means that if you want to do it at a higher level, you probably need to travel a lot, or
Hmm.
live for 9 months far away from your family. That really change everything. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to have a balance between my life and basketball. The last thing that I can say is that sometimes having something to do out of basketball help a lot your basketball pressure,
Hmm.
because maybe, for example, last night we won a game that for me was very important, and maybe you feel like a king for 1 hour. The reality is that maybe this morning at 7 o'clock, you have to go to the school to bring your daughter, or go and
Hmm.
shopping, and you go back to the real life. This helps a lot, and helps a lot also when things goes wrong, because in our life, in our profession, many times things goes wrong, and we have to
Hmm.
find this balance.
Yes, that was perfect what we were saying now in the ending, because um, as I'm living far away from home for the past 4 years, but now in Italy for the past 3 months, it's really different to be 300 kilometers from home than to be 1,600 kilometers. So another language, another culture. For those who travel away from home, even if it's just a region, and like you said, you have to switch off and do your things as a father, as a husband. For those who are don't have that responsibility of being a father and a husband, how can they switch off a bad game or a good game and then connect with outside of basketball life and then reconnecting with basketball? Because when we are alone, it's not that easy because we get sucked into this bubble, and that's why I'm asking.
Look, you're speaking with someone that, when I start coaching, I'm speaking when I start coaching men's, of course, I was really not able to cut off from basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And in those moments, for me, that was the normal way of being. Now that I'm getting old, I'm telling you, this was one of the biggest mistake of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have to force yourself, you must force yourself to do something completely different. Especially at first years of coaching. I'm sure it happens also. It has happened to you also in the past, maybe, or now. You coach many teams, and
Mm-hmm.
you are in the gym maybe, I don't know, 8 hours, 10 hours. In my case, when I was my early 30s, I even I was even the main manager of the club, and it was a big club. We had 350 kids, so it was not small. And in my mind, I remember that for me was I was not even thinking about doing something for myself. This was the biggest mistake. Even if you have to force yourself, you want to go one time dancing, go dancing. You like to play paddle, go paddle. You want to go, or look, if I can go back to those days, I would force myself in having a schedule for myself. Like, I don't know, Tuesday tennis, and Thursday, I don't know, Latin music, or whatever
Hmm.
you like. But this is super super important, more important than studying, because it's
Yeah.
something that I think that a lot of people don't really understand the meaning of this.
Yes. No. No. Now that you're talking about when COVID hit it, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, um, I encountered myself going through this, like, I asked a friend of mine, how can I turn off, and she says, okay, who's Vasco after basketball? And I was a little bit stunned because my whole life was based on basketball on those days. There was of course, it was the first year that I was in academy with Nuno. It was the first year that I was a professional coach, so I was very into it because I really wanted to succeed. But after that, I really understood, like you say, I had to schedule me time. I call it me time. So every morning from 8 to 10 or 9 to 11, I had 2 hours of doing just whatever I wanted to, even if it's sleep, going to the gym, going for a walk, going to play, whatever. For me, that's very important what you said, and a great insight for those young coaches that are starting and are going. I have to grow, grind and grind and grind. Okay, you have to grind, you have to study, but at the same time, you have to take some time off to recharge and to reconnect with yourself. But we were talking about getting consumed about a lot of hours of gym, but also as a coach, you have an amazing amazing time lapse of hours outside of the gym to planning practices, to do the scouting. Like you said, when you go to a higher level, the demand is higher, the pressure is higher, so you feel obligated to even work a little bit more and try to prepare as much of the game as possible. So in terms of scouting, when we talk about scouting at a third, like you are on the third level of basketball in Italy, it's like a professional level already. It's a very high level already. When we talk about scouting in the Serie B, normally when you have to, let's imagine today is Monday, you have to start prepare the game for Saturday. What are the first two or three things that are mandatory for you to understand for you to start the scouting of the other team?
Okay, first of all, because if not, like in your words, people can think that I'm working alone. I have two assistant coaches,
Hmm.
and so, for example, this morning, I already have. I like to see as more as possible myself. That doesn't mean that I go over their work. I
Hmm.
respect a lot, and they're doing a fantastic job. But normally they send me clips of the last normally 4 games of my next opponents, and then already with some ideas. Uh, then I will do myself the last game, but I like to see the last game. I like to see the last 1 or 2 games. I like to see full, not going through Instat or so. Maybe just
Hmm.
doing like old style, because I see that sometimes when you go through, through those kind of software, you lose the flow of the game, and
Yes.
sometimes it's very important, especially
And
because
of
it's related.
Yeah,
It's
sorry. And
related to what I'm telling you. That is we cannot control everything, and the ability of having a resume, a recap of 100 things that I see, but in reality most important thing is those 3 or 4 or 5 that I when I go to the team, because
Hmm.
that really makes the difference. The ability of like of getting the right points. Then some coaches like to be more, let's say, in general, having rules. that during the season they like to stay always with same rules, more or less. Uh, my idea is that I like to have my, my basic rules,
Hmm.
and on those build every week two or three different things that, in my opinion, can first of all can be digested by my players, because that's another underestimated value,
How
because
much they can understand, right?
that makes the difference. Because I can try to make my team sit down in front of me and watching the same amount of videos that I see, probably I will obtain exactly zero. Maybe with 3 or 4 clips, that's already enough. Maybe someone is able only to get one single game adaptation, or however you want, or special situation. Like,
Hmm.
the difficult part, especially during the preseason, for me, is to understand, how much each one of them is able to get, not only to get, but is able then to transform when we play. Because to get is something not everyone is able to
Hmm.
do that. That's another interesting topic when we speak about game preparation.
See, and about this scouting, they were saying that you can do either video or either a write, or either you can see 100 things or 50 things. You were speaking about your assistant coach, and I think that he has a lot to in behind of the work. Also, because this year I'm doing some scouting for a Portuguese team, and I can understand when you say that you have to trust your assistants, because if you don't trust them, you have a lot of work to do and you won't be able to do everything. So for me it's very important that split work that you do with your assistants. It's something that is every time is the same. So one assistant does the other team's offense and defense, the other assistant does the personnel. How do you split the work for your assistants and with yourself?
Uh, um, I'm speaking only about game preparation, of course, not what we do during the week. Um, One of them is responsible more of the playbook. So I like, at least me, so don't take me wrong, this is for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be a maniac. I want to know every call, everything that happened. And then I want that we, as a staff, we decide which one are the calls more important, the systems,
Mm-hmm.
and not only which one we think that will be the calls that will happen the most when we play against. And that's again another more important point. And another coach is responsible for the individual report,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the individual video, because normally I don't like to do many video sessions. We do one for the individual skills, for about our opponents, of course, and one about the team systems. uh, Normally they send me the clips already in order, so I will see maybe 100 clips, and then I decide which ones are those that I will select, that I want the players to see. But I honestly, I know that some of my colleagues uh, do not like to do so much, but I want to see everything. I want that my assistants, they will prepare already everything in order, so I know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a double I set, or a floppy or whatever it is. They have three. I already have my files, and I can go there and see 50. Because during the week, what happened, and that's again, it's much more important, because then what it's really important is what happening on the court.
Of
It's
course.
happening that we try some kind of defense, and many times happens that practice ends, I go in my office, or already in the court. I take my laptop and I want to go back and see, but if the power forward does that, or this option, what we do if we defend like that? Because that happened just 2 minutes ago. I like to be effective as more
Mm-hmm.
as possible, because at the end of the day, being effective and the way your team perform, it's much more important than how many information I can absorb. Because
Of
maybe
course.
I can absorb 6 hours, because I'm a crazy guy, but
Mm-hmm.
not everyone.
No, but you were talking about this, and I have for me, it's a very important thing to talk about. How much of what you consume of the other teams? So imagine you're consuming 6 hours or 100 clips. how much does that like help you to, in even in the game, be ready to, okay, this happened, I know that in those clips that I saw, so you can create like a chain reaction on your brain, so you can get that gives you a quicker solution, or it retains your brain to, okay, I'm thinking too much, I can't even decide. Because some things that I think, or one skill that I think that is one of the most important in-game skills for a coach, is to understand what's happening, and through the scouting that they did before, understand what we should do after, very quickly. So for you, how much of that information gets into the game and helps you make better decisions in game?
Okay. The starting point is that when you arrive to the game, of course, as we're speaking at least about regular season, not preseason,
Mm-hmm.
you should have already created some kind of habits that more or less can, habits in terms of I don't know, systems or kind of defenses that can help you more or less in some situation that happening quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm gonna say something that is not written on on books, let's say like that. There are many situations, but many even 12 hours ago happened. The other team has a system that it's called Due. Okay, I know that Due is they when they call Due, they just do I don't know diamond and then they pass the ball always inside. I'm just wondering.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that system I never practiced that system with my club, with my team. I never, I maybe I didn't even make them watching that system. But in that moment, I'm very close to the floor, and I can even just being loud with one of my player and say, okay, you know, just knowing what's happening, even if you don't do, let's say, if you do zero adaptation, but knowing what's happening, sometimes what I see is that the players feel more confident. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know if your normal defense is to be 3 quarters of the post-up situation, knowing that after 2 or 3 movements, the opponent will go in the low post. Of course, I didn't destroy their offense, but at least I know that my big already knows where the other offense go. And what I did is during the week, zero, just saying something very loud to that guy during the game. Uh, that shows, how this balance is very,
Mm-hmm.
very, is very, very. How to say it? The line is a small line because we have to feel comfortable in doing this. That's my idea. Of course, I'm not perfect. My
Mm-hmm.
idea is that I want to feel as comfortable as possible, and I want my players feel as comfortable as possible about those things.
You were saying about destroying the systems and getting to understand what's happening when. Uh, that's one thing that I've been always have this question in my mind, and I've been questioning coach, because it's something that I think you have the whole system. You know that it has some key points. So those that what you were talking about, the do ways or to go post up. So you know that on that side you have to understand that you have to destroy the system there. How much of the set plays are you trying to destroy, or just trying to break their spacing and break their timing? Because that's a different risk and aggressiveness of breaking a timing, or just destroying per completely the set. How do you decide to, okay, I want to destroy this set for complete because they score a lot of points from here, or I just want to break the timing because when they are off timing and off spacing, they're not that good of a organizative team?
What I believe is that when we're speaking about breaking their timing, it's a lot about your player personal,
Mm-hmm.
because of course, especially in the positions 1, 2, and 3, you need players with that they're used to do something like that. Uh, but at the end of the day, I think that those two things, they can go together, both like in combination, because there are, for example, I'm trying to go more specific. If I know that there is a system that is not in transition, but let's say a set, where there are few off-ball screens, and they move the ball side to side without, any off-ball screens. My idea is always, and this is something that my team, they should know from day one, in this situation, you must work pressuring the ball and making that passing line as far away from the basket.
Mm-hmm.
Then, specific game, we know that we can even deny that. Because if I deny that, I don't know, the area is covered, because in that specific spacing, we have other defensive players there. It's easy to just get to do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
When we go through the systems, I like to pick those systems, and I'm speaking about 2 or 3 sets,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4. It's already a lot. That I know that on that call, uh, I'm gonna have problems. I'm gonna have problems because of the quality of my opponents, or because I know that I'm suffering. For example, I'm suffering if I cannot do a proper show on pick and roll defense, and they play a ram screen, and it's very difficult to do a show. If I don't present that system that start with a ram. So it's not about the show; it's about how the big defend the ram screen to
Mm-hmm.
arrive to the show. And probably if I want to show, I have to give up some other things. So most of the times is, when I think how to destroy one system, is more what I want to give up. Because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, basketball games, they don't end 3-0 like in football. And offense, first or later, will score. Of course, there is also disrupting timing, or some players that, I don't know, like to have the ball in his hands, or is a great pick and roll player. I would say, okay, I don't know, let's play a show and risk the pass to the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And if they score 10 times from the corner, I prefer to lose the game with that player that normally score only 1-3 per game. And now they have to come here and they have to win the games with that player scoring 10. These are all choices, but I think Vasco, more than 3 is already a lot. I'm speaking about specific.
Mm-hmm. Sí, sí,
Then,
sí.
of course, what I do is that sometimes uh, there are many teams. That is something that personally I don't like a lot, but there are many teams that they play always with a very similar spacing, especially now speaking about pick and roll situation. So I say, let's say I play against you. You have 6 setups, and 5 ends up more or less with the same spacing. Like I cannot control everything as a robot, but what I can do is statistically say, if this kind of defense work 5 situation out of 6, I can go with that. And maybe if I feel that my team is ready to absorb a new information, when they call Uno, that is the system that can create me a problem, I will do something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
How many times, or better, in how many calls? No more than 3. That, at least for me, I see that it's very difficult to digest, because during
Mm-hmm.
we as a coaches, I think sometimes we forget how tough it is to be in the
To
floor
play.
playing, with blood, with I don't know, playing with contact, with I don't know, supporters that
Sí,
maybe you
sí,
are
sí.
not in a good moment, and they're screaming your names, and like, it's that. I think it's very important. Again, the word for me is balance, but I like a lot to go, like statistically thinking, what are the situations that can create me a problem with my
Uh-huh.
basic defense? Second is, what is the main spacing that they use?
Okay, and I have two more questions about the last thing you said, because you've talked about a lot of understanding your players and what they can understand of other teams, and what can they digest. How much of your players have a saying on a scouting in terms of, okay, coach, we don't feel as confident as possible with this type of engagement of a pick and roll situation or a
So,
cross skin, because one friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, coach, said it is the players that play the game, is not the coaches. So how much of the scouting or the final game plan has the players saying like we feel confident about this, we feel good doing this, we don't feel that as much this situation. How do you receive that feedback and you change everything, you change some things, you say okay, now it's our rules and we have to fight through this, and you have to say how do you balance also this type of engagement with the players?
Okay. First of all, I agree with you. This is a player's game. And my job is, I think the best coach is the one that is the best at helping their players to perform well. Because
Hmm.
I do not shoot the ball. Maybe one time I can draw a good ATO or whatever, but at the end of the day, most of the situations, those are for the players. Of course, it's not possible to be in a situation where everyone ends up and talk. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is, first of all, when probably later we talk about how we go through, the opponents during the week, and I like to start very early. Why I like to start very early? Because I want to have problems. I want that something that you just mentioned happen. Because at the end of the day, let's say normally at least in one situation per game, I'm trying to mention what happened, lastly, uh, end off between guards. In some games, it's better to do a switch. In some other games, it's better to go push and under or whatever you as a
Hmm.
coach like to do. But depending by the dynamic of the situation, some players don't feel confident, for example, in switching. And I say, I present the situation. I'm speaking about one situation, not 100. One. I present
Hmm.
the situation and say, guys, here I would do like that, but I want that you feel engaged 100%. It's your choice. Then, when imagine this, if for you it's an important situation, when two, three, four players they say, okay, coach, let's do like this. Of course, they cannot go back. You,
Of
you
course.
understand what I
See,
mean?
see, see, see. Hmm.
Again, it's a balance between those things. I try to don't do that more than one thing. Sorry, on one single situation. Let's call it like this. But if during the week, I don't know, on Monday, I was sure about doing, I don't know, a drop against the defense sorry, against the system, and on Wednesday, we try already to go into a general aspect of the next opponent. And I see that in that situation is impossible. I think I would be stupid if I don't change. Of
Hmm.
course, I cannot change Saturday to Sunday. I don't know if I was able to explain myself.
See, see, yes, yes, yes.
You know,
So mostly you are feeling, you are trying to get a feel for what you are trying to give your players, and if they understand and they can and they manage to do it, you continue that. That's pretty simple. Yes.
then there is a little big secret. When the opponent don't score, and you have prepared, I don't know, that in that situation I go zone or I do something completely crazy, you know that sometimes they do not score, not because you were good. Maybe you just changed something and their head went out and they miss a shot.
Hmm.
And so it's not only tactic that the secret is that when some defense start working, your players get confident in that, and they will do it better the second time and the third time. How
Hmm.
many times you see that? I don't know. Let's talk about zone. Maybe you go in zone, they score three threes. Maybe you did the perfect job, but you really see the body languages, and the situation is, oh, now it's a disaster. While maybe the other team, they get exactly the same quality from those shots, but they miss, and everything looks perfect.
Hmm.
That's this is. I think this is the beautiful part of our game. Because at the end of the day, we depend by persons, by people, not by machines.
Of course. And the last question about this first part of scouting, because we are always talking about individual skills, how do we adapt to individual skills? How much of the scouting that you do in terms of team rules and game rules? So, okay, well, I have a team rule of going under every time on the pick and roll,
So,
but against this team I have to do a show because the point guard can create a lot from the pick and roll situation. How much of the scouting weekly is ingrained in your team rules, and how much is game rules. So every week you change the pick and roll situation rules, or it depends. Of course, I don't want you to give too much because this is going to be a leak for every opponent in Serie B this year. But how do you try to manage this? Because, like you said, you don't have the time to do everything and to try everything, and you have to balance it out. And okay, we have to give up this and give that up. How do you try to understand what skills can you use or what game rules can you use?
Okay, I think the first part of your question was referred to the individual skills, correct, of
Hmm.
our opponents, and that changed everything. That changed everything. It's the most important thing. Uh, of course, the team tactics also has a lot to do with that. Probably has everything to do
Hmm.
with that. Because on papers, I can draw perfectly. How defend a situation. But then you have a player that I don't know 1-on-1, we cannot defend. You have to invent something. What my idea is to have, for example, this season I started 2 months ago with a brand new team with like all players were new. No one played together last year. And so the first month is to try to understand where to go. Now the idea is to have 3 or 4 different defenses, if we're speaking about pick and rolls, and then every week be ready to adapt that defense to a certain player. Because if on paper it looks great to play, I don't know, a drop against a pick and roll, I don't know, and stunt, but that team, in their spacing, has always a great pull-up shooter in the ball handler position and in front of
Hmm.
you as the best shooter of the game. For me, what looks good on paper will not will not look good
For sure,
when
for
we
sure.
play.
Hmm.
So I have to change my defense.
And in regards of now going through, because like you said, on paper everything is beautiful. Also in
Yeah.
scouting, so okay, I have this set plays. I know these skills. We're going to attack them here, here, and here, and then we go to the court, to the weekly planning, to the weekly practices. I know that you have something to show us. So if you are listening just on Spotify, you go to YouTube and you could see everything. But as we go through, we can even talk about what's saying, and it's perfect
Yeah,
understanding.
sure.
But before we go into it, you said that you start planning your games really early on the week. How much of the before the game before planning goes into the game after? Let's see if I can explain myself. How much of the problems that you encountered on the game yesterday goes into the game of the next week?
That is a great question because it's my weekly Monday question.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, the risk is that you stay for 1 or 2 days on concepts, could be offense or defense, doesn't matter. That will be completely different from what you're going to in 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
So again, our ability to I don't know how to say to select the topics that can be useful also for the next game is super important. Because I don't know if I just lost a game against a team that played 40 minutes of a 3-2 zone, and
Mm-hmm.
I already know that next week I even know the coach or whatever because we play against because that's another point. Maybe you play against the same coach for 2 or 3 years, and each one of us, because we are crazy, we have always those 2 or 3 things that you always do. Doesn't matter the team. And I already know that he's gonna play only man-to-man defense for 40 minutes, no matter why. I have to try to stay on that zone, maybe only on the first meeting that we do on Tuesday, and that's it. Saying like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, but this will happen. Or sometimes what I like to do is instead of doing a team meeting, I take those 2 or 3 players with me on the stands, and I just show them 3 clips because I'm not a big fan of a after game team meeting altogether because I
Mm-hmm.
think that the we are all if we do this job, the coaches are the worst. We are all I don't know if the English word is correct, but narcissist,
Uh-huh.
you
Perfect.
know, and
Perfect.
we are all a little bit with our ego is always big. coaches and players. So many times, to say things in front of all the group will not have the same reaction that when it's one on one or two on two or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, some other times, I'm telling you, for example, what happened last week on Tuesday. We stayed 20 minutes all together in the video room, and this was the from the beginning of the season only the second time that I did it about one last game, because we do it, of course, when it's for to prepare the game.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. In the past, I always thought that was, there is always something that the player don't say. If
Uh-huh.
it's me and you will say probably something more.
Yeah, one thing that I really got into it the last 2 or 3 years, even as a youth coach, and he got tell me by a sports psychologist, is that before we have too much team meetings, we have to have too much one-on-one meetings, because if not, they are not, like you said, they are not able to express themselves fully, because they have are a little bit afraid of the other's judgment, because they have to be all year long together. So that's a nice way to go over it and do simple one-on-one meetings during the week. And about this week, about what we were talking about, the scouting, and you can share the screen after and walk us through it. How much of your thinking of the scouting, thinking of the game, that those 6 hours that you were saying, those set plays, all the playbooks, how much of that is going to the game preparation during the week, the practices, the video room? How much of the scouting is going to working on those different things within your concepts, and how much of it is it's just, okay, we see this, but we're not working on it on the floor. We have to know that, but we're not working on it.
What can you see the paper? No.
No. Yeah, now I
Now,
can see
yes,
it.
right? Okay. What I'm answering you now to you with a crazy answer. If I can choose, if I can choose, my answer is zero. I'm trying to explain myself better. Because if we need zero, that means that all our general concepts, they can work in that game.
Uh-huh.
And of course, my day will be perfect. Uh, but again, the ability of having a resume, a recap for myself, and from that resume that I have, having another extra resume and recap for the players is, for me, is the solution.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the less informations I go giving to the players, the best. Especially if they are very clear, very clear. It's better to say few things and very clear. Some games you have to, of course, we make mistakes, and I am the one that make the most mistakes. But sometimes I feel I have to give two things more. Sometimes I feel I have to say two things less. But
Mm-hmm.
the starting point is always, even if during that game I say, okay, we have to work on five different systems of the opponent, I always try to think, uh, imagine the meeting before the game or the two meetings before the game. I always try to say, okay, now we spoke about many things, but at the end of the day, most important is this, and that. What are the three keys? That's what I'm asking myself, even when I prepare the speeches. What are the three keys they make us win in the game?
Mm-hmm.
And I must be the first one believing believing on those ones. Because if not, what we're talking about. But three, because if I start saying 25, first of all, you cannot be focused on 25 of 25
And
things,
you'll lose your players also.
of course.
Yes. But now that you have here,
See.
walk us through a weekly planning. We can see here topics, game preparation. Walk us through,
Okay.
like, on Tuesday we do this, on Wednesday, on Thursday. How much
See.
of this, and is this something that happens all the time, or you can translate, like, one week we can do more meeting, less meeting? It depends on what you were saying before, right? Like if you need to work more on concepts, less more on concepts. Okay.
Yeah, but more or less is like that. Of course, it change
Mm-hmm.
when we play Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday. That it happens, let's say, one time per month, more or
Okay.
less. Okay,
Uh-huh.
but this is like a normal, uh, uh, a normal week. Let's call it like this. This is
Okay.
only about the game preparation. Of course, not
Mm-hmm.
that when we practice we do only those things. We keep
Okay.
doing our individual sessions and
Uh-huh.
whatever. Okay, so normally Tuesday we do a last game analysis. That depends, how the game went. Also about feelings, about the, sometimes also maybe you have to manage, I don't know, a player that is unhappy for something, or the president that is unhappy for something different. That for me is, I put all together in the analysis,
Mm-hmm.
and then we do a meeting, like I was saying earlier, a team meeting only if it's necessary. But if not, I go player by player to talk, and of course, it means that I have to spend much more time. But I like to go to at least 3 or 4 players that I feel like to go on Tuesday and stay there 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, even going for a coffee and
Mm-hmm.
speak about the last game, or call them and watching a video together and whatever. And then when we practice, so let's say on the court, uh, I want already to stay inside my general concepts, especially in transition on Tuesday, in our transition game. Uh, but if possible, already on Tuesday, I will put, two or three ideas. Uh, for example, look that this team has a very slow position 5 players. And I'm going to tell you something very, very easy. No? So instead of playing always with the idea of arriving there and getting ready for a drag screen, this time, look, start from Tuesday and think that I want you to go as deep as possible, run rim to rim, because maybe this time we can score a couple of baskets just running. Okay, so that's an example. Of
And that,
course,
that's let me just stop you there for a second. That's one thing that I really think that's very important is how the using the scouting not just to prepare ourselves to play against them, but how can we attack them within our concepts? Because sometimes I see that when I see some games and I see okay, but they have this specific player that is really either a bad defender or a slow player or a bad defender off the screen. How can you not attack him like two, three, four, 5 times a game every quarter to understand that if he can play, he can't be a scorer. So I see that you have special situations that we can attack or get an defensive event, defensive advantages. Are you looking for that every week, or do you let the game itself create those situations so you can attack after?
no, no, no. This is planned,
Okay.
planned always. And let me tell you something that it's very interesting from my side, especially for someone like you that works in youth basketball, related to what you just saw, what you just said. Um, I think that we underestimate the ability of the player of reading the game in defense, because many times, but many times, we as a coaches we talk about offensive reading, while in defense we are much more strict. I don't know if you
Uh-huh.
understand what I mean.
See, see, see,
Like,
see,
oh,
see.
I do, sure, okay, but
Mm-hmm.
that depends by, you know 300 of different situations. And why a player cannot read that, especially when we speak about youth basketball. Like, I listen a lot of very good colleagues of mine, and they say, oh, but I don't know, for example, when we start learning the pick and roll defense, we start with switching. Okay, so, like, why? Are you sure that we should switch every time? You understand what I mean? Like, I think that it's a topic that it's really underestimated. Let's
No, I
say
think
that reading offense is so big and everyone speak about that, and reading defense is very small. And
but
those
I
players that, that they have it, they have a big advantage.
no, I have a strong opinion on that because I think as we as coaches, we can leave the offensive reading, and we can create more freedom to the players, because we are always secure that we have one or two players, even more in male basketball, in men's, that can create off the dribble 1v1 and can score. So we are more okay. Oof. Whether in defense, I think that to give more freedom to players is directly directly connected to being ready to mess up a defense coverage a lot more times. So in the beginning, you have a lot of misconnections, miscommunication, everything. So if we as coaches are okay with that at the early stage, like in youth program, like you said, perfect. If not, we're going to be very restricted. That's where I think it happens, because we prefer to listen from the stands. Oh, what a good defensive team they are. They always do this very well, rather than, oh, but they do everything. It's a chaos. But maybe some a little bit of chaos is required to understand that.
I am a big fan of chaos, and at least until a certain age. But now
Mhm.
this is not the site. We maybe we can do another podcast talking about that. But I think that until a certain age, you must have chaos to to take advantage, to be the right word that I use a lot even with professional players. You must be proactive, proactive. And what is better than chaos, to learn how to be proactive. And then we always speak about, oh, that coach is very good because he coaches youth basketball, and his offensive system get, those players are all free to do and blah blah blah. But for me, that's exactly the same in defense. Why in defense should be different?
Uh-huh.
This is my sorry. I went off topic,
No, no, but
but you drove
no.
me there.
It's a topic that I also think is important to talk, and we can schedule a second part to talk about. But we were saying,
Of course.
so on Tuesday
Yeah.
you go through your transition ideas, try to understand if they have something that you can attack, and then on Wednesday.
Yeah, but imagine also this, that I think that it's another thing that is underestimated. Uh, Transition is so important. Is sometimes we treat it like it's just a part of the game. I don't know, but if you statistically count how much time during the game those two teams they spend in transition, I mean, probably it's like 30% or something like this.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So I think to get an advantage out of that in defense or in offense is super important. On Wednesday, I keep doing that work with transition. Maybe we work in some situation, let's say 3 against 4 or 5 against 4, or someone recovering and all those things. What I want to say is that, of course, especially Tuesday and Wednesday, but in general during all the week, the amount of work that I do is controlled not by me, absolutely
Uh-huh.
not, but from my strength and conditioning coach. So he will come to me and will say, today we can do, I like to do games. So it could be 2 or 3 games, I don't know, 3 courts, and then 2 or 3 games, 3 minutes, and then 2 or 3, 5 minutes, whatever. But he controlled the amount of work. So I
Hmm.
have to put these topics inside the amount of work that he decide, because
Of course.
everyone has his own rule. On Wednesday, normally I start already working on ball screen situations. Okay, just something very quick. But for example, if I see that they are a team that it's very late in weak side rotation, maybe we invent some game that start already 5-on-5, but we start with that kind of rotation where I do constraints. I think that's the word, no?
Yes,
Like
yes,
I
yes, yes.
do, I do constraints where the defense start already with, sorry, the offense already start with advantage, and we can, start from there, very easy. Same, if I believe that that week is more important to start from the defensive point of view, I will do the same. And then, just to give a practical example, with men's, what I like to do is we play games. So we start like already 5-on-5. I create a dynamic situation out of what I want to work on. And on the first floor, sorry, the first court, so first half, we do that. And then we go up and down, and then we stop. because I think that I believe that at least working three, let's say three halves together
Mm-hmm.
gives always the game feeling, and then you
Okay.
can play with points for defense, points for offense. But I always try to play games and try to play with scores, and I always try to play with especially until Thursdays when I play with games with time. I always give them the freedom to organize their own timeout. I know that
Mm-hmm.
someone thinks that I'm crazy, but I really believe it is. On Friday and Saturday, we play games with 5 minutes, with one timeout per team, and I handle it. But during the first 3 days of the week, I love that. That's the best part of practice. And I just go around one group and the other and try to see what kind of adaptation they like to do. Because we're speaking about game preparation, but at the end of the day, those moments are the moments that make you winning. If the team feel confident in
Mm-hmm.
themselves. On Thursday morning, we do normally weightlifting and a shooting session, and with two different groups because we like to be very analytics, and everyone does a video meeting just about our opponent players' skills,
Mm-hmm.
so specific about their characteristics, and then we already start going into the systems. Normally, I put one system. If I feel that there is one system that can create me a problem in terms of, you know what, maybe I have to change my first idea of defense, that's, the earlier I put during the practice, the better it is. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I have to change something, that's the perfect moment. And of course, if it's kind of Tuesday to Saturday, we start going from generic to always last specific till
Specific short.
like
Mm-hmm.
on Friday I do a video this time all together before practice. So let's say if practice is 5:30, we meet at 5. The meeting I try to have it never longer than 20 minutes. So we stay
Mm-hmm.
in that room no more than 20 minutes. If there is some zone situations that we have to go against, or we feel that we have to play zone during that day, we try to play and to correct them. And again, I put another system. So if it's zone, or if I decide to play zone, I go to an analysis of the last games that they play against the zone, and so maybe we play a game, and or we do a walkthrough. I always do walkthrough before every
Mm-hmm.
practice. Before every practice, there is a walkthrough, because I like that. Then when we have to do it live, we already have an idea.
Okay. Okay.
Saturday, I know that some coaches they don't like, but the day before the game, I practice 5-on-5. Uh,
That's one thing that when I saw that I want to ask you,
say,
because
say,
I know a coach that doesn't do 5-on-5 the day before, because it doesn't have to have the misfortune of injured player, and I know, but I have a coach that always does 5-on-5 on the day before, because he says that if the last moment of practice, real practice that we have, is not competitive, we're not ready to compete in a game. So, what's
yeah.
your intake on doing 5-on-5 on the day before?
Exactly the last concept that you just said. Because I feel that from Friday to Sunday to do just walkthrough and shooting for 2 days, for me, you lose, let's say, the game feeling. But we do here. I wrote short. It's very short.
Hmm.
Saturday practice is very short. It's 1 hour, and 5-on-5 will be, I don't know, 25 minutes
Uh-huh.
between different situations, in total. Okay. And also because if I have to see some special situations again, I know that coach, when you do ATOs, always does, I don't know, a Spain pick and roll or whatever you like to do, or a special situation in during the baseline inbounds. Like all those things. I think it's better to see it live. To
Hmm.
see it live, not too much, and I'm telling you, that's my opinion. Because when you see it too much for too long, especially if it's a special situation that it's a little bit strange. What's happening is that playing live, the players get an advantage out of this, because most of those strange situation, with a simple adaptation, you can really solve it.
Hmm.
So then you lose that feeling of playing a real game, and I don't want to lose it. I want to play really short. I want to practice in the morning, simply because, like you just said, if something happen, of course, something not very big, I still have the afternoon to do, I don't know, therapies, work with therapists, with the strength and conditioning coach, whatever it is. So I have another half day. That's the reason. But I
Hmm.
agree with playing 5 on 5. I have players, for example, last year they told me like, oh, but at the beginning of the season, they said, I never did 5 on 5 on Saturday, and then you have to you have to convince them.
Hmm.
Of course, honestly, if I have a team of 10 players and 9 do not want to do it, if things are going well, again, for me it's matter of what is our goal, not what I
Hmm.
like to do, because I believe
Of
in many
course.
things. Maybe I believe in 100 things and I do 10 when I do when I
Hmm.
do this work, because every time is adapting to the players. And then Sunday morning, we just do almost nothing. We just do a walkthrough. We do some shooting. If some players like to do, I like to give them a lot of freedom. Someone
Hmm.
prefer to do an EV shooting. Some other player like just to do some stretching. I like to work in blocks, in terms of I don't go there the morning before the game and talk for half an hour and then say, okay, now you can do whatever you want. I prefer to do a small talk about one topic, for, I don't know, let's say offense, and then another block about, I don't know, they just shoot for 5 minutes, and then another block about inbounds, and then they just
Hmm.
shoot for another 5 minutes, and then maybe I go again on our offensive concepts. But this is at least my idea. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So here I just found, this is from last year. Those are some big posters that we put before in the locker room. But
Uh-huh.
what I like, and I know that I'm stressing my assistants a lot, those are not in the room only on Sundays. Those posters are in the room also
Mm.
when I do video meeting.
Okay.
So they go inside the room, they wait 5 minutes to start, and they already watch more or less what we do differently. Okay,
Hmm.
that's why you see a lot of names of the systems, because this is the main use is during the video session. Then it will be also on Sunday on the wall, but on the wall on Sunday there will be this big one of those two that you see. There will be the players one, big, so about skills, and then there will be another one with systems draw, with just 2 or 3 systems, okay, just to give them also the vision
Hmm.
of what's happening. And then behind that, this is, I think is very common, a
The
player
scouting
report,
report. Yes, 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 yes.
very simple. And this is a part of what we give them, where it's written game plan. Um we don't give papers. Now we only use WhatsApp or whatever,
Uh-huh.
uh, and we give to the players 2 days before the game one file where you have this first page, you have another page just with the most interesting statistics that for me are free throw percentage, offensive rebounds, which player, we can kind to, or worst 3-point shooters,
Hmm.
those things that are very, very important. And of course, game by game, there will be, some different line to add. And then the playbook of the team. So let's say they have like a file with 4 or 5 players, 4 or 5 pages.
Hmm. Uh, and when you get them this, when you do the posters on the video meetings, are you
Yeah.
trying for them to create or like create a mental preparation visualization not to it that they have to do, or you use it also for them to feel confident? Okay, okay, if if I forget about something, I know I have this poster where I can always rely on. Um, because I used to do this last year because I like that at halftime I can always go back to that poster that I have.
So,
Okay, let's say our game plan was A B C A B C. We are only do A and B, and because the visual thing is is a way easier for the players to understand. Okay, we are screwing up on this. What's the main purpose of you getting these posters early?
let's say a combination of what you just said,
Uh
because
huh.
I like every meeting. It could be even just a meeting before the game, or halftime, or after the game. After the game, I almost don't say nothing, but I always think that, I feel I have to get, like just to say, even just to
Hmm.
do an huddle or whatever. But every time I close the door, they are inside, and I like that is their moment for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. If I am outside, of course, I'm not trying to listen what they say, but if I see that there is still noise, for me, if they have to spend one moment more together, it's very important.
Perfect.
Many times I saw that, some players, honestly, they don't almost don't read those things because we have to be straight with that. Uh, First of all, it makes me doing those kind of works that makes me myself more confident. Give me more. I feel sure about what I'm doing during the week, and also, like you just said, if during the week I need to go back and check something, that is always ready. And
Hmm.
this is for me, it's important because now I cannot show you, but in reality we use a drive that of course is shared with all the staff, where I put from brainstorming to team reports to team practice. So everyone can go back and check
Uh huh.
what we are going to do.
Perfect.
Uh, I love last year, for example, my team, the last team that I coach, before every game, you can really. I realized that it was almost playoff, but there were three players that before the game, before I was getting in, they sit in front of the posters and they discuss together. And when I saw that, I thought, you know what, that's great.
Uh huh.
Because at the end of the day, you cannot think that all the players they like to do it. Some players maybe they just don't need it because everything that I put there written, it's something that we already tried on the floor.
Okay, that's the most important thing for me. Like you
Yes.
are already have are familiar with what we did. So, coach, before we end up, we have our corner freeze last questions. Like I said to you off record, the idea is to shoot the answer as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And from what we have talked about before, you gave some answers already, but if you want to maintain those answers, is okay. If you want to change, okay after. So the first question is, if you were getting to the past and you get to Daniele when he was starting, what was that one piece of advice that you could give him?
Take time for yourself.
Like I was thinking you were going to say that, but okay. The second question, if you can name two or three characteristics of a great coach, if it's a role model for you, or if it's something that you think that is important for a coach to succeed, what would be?
Empathy. I still
Uh-huh.
don't know if empathy
Which is,
and the ability to perform, because we also perform, of course, not only the players, under stress. For me,
understood.
just those two things are the most, and of course, honesty and
Uh-huh,
integrity.
uh-huh.
But
I think
the first two
empathy goes
is the
within
more.
honesty and integrity, all that. And I really like the performing under pressure because I know that, and we know some great coaches that under pressure just go down because they can't rely on that. But okay, the third one, it's a little bit different to understand to respond, but if you can, it will be perfect. Did you have any eureka moment or wow moment from any movie or books that really changed your way of coaching or your way of living? that you can like tell us to see or to read?
No, not really, not really. What I'm about that I can only answer you, but because we know each other for many years. It's not just the books. Is that especially about basketball? I There was a moment, especially after one season that was so for me, when I was growing very fast. I had one season where you pass from that moment where everyone is saying to you how good you are, from
Uh-huh.
one moment day by day that you are, I don't know, players, sorry, people on the stands like, very saying bad words or whatever. And that was very tough. And I say to myself, I want that. I want to have always answers. I want to have answers because I felt that in that moment, honestly, I didn't have answers. I want that one player come close to me. He need to see not only on my word, from my words, because that is easy, but he has to see from my body language and from my answers that I know what I'm
Uh-huh.
going to say.
Uh-huh.
So from that, I start studying. Like I went even in other countries to get my license, and this was
Hmm.
not necessary because I already hold the highest level license in Italy, just to have different answers. Because the moment that I love when I coach is when a player asks me for an help and coach out of this situation. I want to give an answer. I still don't know if I have, of course, probably not. I don't have answers for everything, but it's not just the book. Is that moment for me create me that idea? Because if I feel more confident in myself,
Of
I
course.
probably pass a different message to the players, and not only to the players, to the club and to the supporters and whatever.
Uh-huh. And even I think when we're talking about that, I think even if it's something that it can be wrong, but if you are really confident that when you're on what you're saying, you can really sell it to the players and to the stand. So I think that's for me. My father used to say, I don't want you to lie ever to me, but if you do it
Do very well.
so very well because I can't understand. So that stuck with my mind at the
This,
time, and that's something I take. But well, coach, for another time, really, really thank you for sharing with us, even with a whole presentation sharing with us. So if you are still listening to Spotify, go down to YouTube to watch because it's a must. And I hope everything goes well on this season in Chieti, and you can have a really big success because you deserve it.
Thank you very much, and we must meet first or later.
Eh, Give me some time to understand the trains in Italy, and I'll do it.
That's not easy, not easy.
Well, thanks, coach, and
Easy, not easy.
well, thanks, coach, and we see you next time.
Okay, thanks. Ciao.